Good evening. Welcome to Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector podcast. I am your host, Tabatha L. Tonight, I would like to share some frequently asked questions that I have received while performing inspections. First question, why do I need an electrical permit to do work in my own home or business? Safety protection. The safety protection is for yourself, your family, and your home protection. Certain types of electrical installation requires a permit before work can begin. If you alter or build a new structure, you must hire a licensed electrical contractor. Another question that I often receive from homeowners, sometimes business owners, how to obtain a permit. Often, if I do an inspection in someone's home, they want to know what type of electrical work are they allowed to do in their own home. Are they allowed to obtain a permit and do certain things in their homes? So I have the answer to that question that I'm often asked. A permit is issued only to a person that is duly licensed under the provisions of this code. Permits are issued by the local building department in your municipality. Securing a permit with a licensed electrical contractor will ensure that your project runs smoothly, since the electrical contractor is more familiar with the process. The licensed electrical contractor will be responsible for all of the electrical installation, including securing a permit, scheduling inspections, purchasing electrical equipment, electrical product listing and labeling requirements, engineering questions if we have any, NEC requirements, and Chapter 1102 of the ordinance, the electrical ordinance. You're responsible to also know that, the electrical contractor. So that's something that's very important. I want to mention that again for the electrical contractors. Also, remember that there are certain code requirements in the code requirements in the ordinance 1102. So go through that carefully. So also the electrical ordinance, they add additional electrical standards required by local municipalities. Working with a local licensed electrical contractor is highly recommended. I highly recommend that you work with a local electrical contractor. Please make sure that you're working with someone you can trust. These contractors have foundations in the community and can be easily researched for reviews if you're looking for an electrical contractor. Please allow your electrical contractor to order all of your electrical equipment and supplies needed for your job project. I will give you an example of why you should do this or why you should allow this, your electrical contractor to order your electrical equipment coming up a little later in this segment. I'm going to give you a list of equipments that come out on the job, and we frequently have major issues with them. I'll give you that list a little later. But remember to allow your electrical contractor to order all of your electrical equipment. Second, that's one way. That's the question on the electrical contractor for your community. So now I want to give you another way that a homeowner can actually a permit as well in certain municipalities. In certain municipalities and certain jurisdictions, you can take an electrical test required by the local jurisdiction to install electrical work in your home. And that work includes installing electrical outlets and receptacles. You can run some new circuits in your home to your electrical system. Small little things to do in your home if you have an electrical background. So there are a few things that the homeowners are not allowed to take a permit out on. And those items are a main service. So that's your service that's coming into your home. You can't do any service work. You can't do any in-ground swimming pool work. You cannot replace any electrical equipment that damaged in a fire or flood or earthquake or any other disaster. You cannot repair any aluminum conductor or wiring. That's called those Alumicon jobs now, is what we're calling it in our area. Generators and transfer switches, cannot do that. No type of alternating power, solar panels, battery backup systems, anything like that, and no vehicle charging or refueling stations. Homeowners are not allowed to do work on gazebos or pergolas. No building structures or building permits. No classified locations. So for this homeowner test, you need to check with your local municipality or your jurisdiction to see if they allow this. Because in certain jurisdictions, they do. My jurisdiction, they do. We do. I get this question a lot when I am on commercial jobs. I get this question from the electricians and the apprentices and some industry people that may ask me questions, project managers. Some people may ask me if, because they're in the trade, are they allowed to take a permit out on their home and do work on their own home? Yes, you can. That information can be found in that ordinance 1102. It will tell you that you can, as a electrician, a homeowner. It's an exception for electricians that are homeowners. A homeowner permit may be issued for these items if you have 12,000 hours of verifiable. I'm sorry. If you can prove that you have 12,000 hours of experience while employed by an electrical contractor, and the electrical contractor has to be licensed in that jurisdiction. So if you can prove that, you're allowed to do small work as the homeowners, but you still can't do the major work. You would probably have to have your contractor take that permit out for you. Take that permit out for you. Now, I'm going to move along with these questions because I want to get as much in as I possibly can. For the electrical contractors, we now have the permits. So for the electrical contractors, I get this question because if the electrical contractor takes out your permit, your job to run as smoothly as possible. And how we can accomplish that if you put the correct information on your permit. When I go on the job, if I go on the first inspection, A lot of the times I'll fail an inspection on the first inspection because incorrect permit information. That will cause delays in your project. So the wrong address, the wrong floor, the wrong suite number, apartment number, utility permit information, missing premise number. The premise number has 9 digits. If you're missing one of those digits, it's not going to go through to the utility companies. Sometimes when I come out there, it's a lockout, meaning I can't get entrance. So these are small things that will delay the project from the beginning. And as the electrical contractor, those are frequent things that I do run into often. There is an inspection called a meter out inspection. So I have those inspections often in my area as well. So that is a question that I often get. Why do I need a meter out inspection? On existing properties where the service has been disconnected for 6 months or more, it's a safety inspection is required prior to the service being energized. So the meter out inspection is a safety inspection. The inspection needs to be performed before the electrical power can be turned back on for that business or residence. It can happen in either or. If your electrical service has been disconnected for 6 months or more, you're required to get a meter out inspection. And sometimes there are really serious problems found during the meter out inspection. And customers, they really appreciate our actions in ensuring that their electrical systems are safe. So often when I am scheduling a meter out inspection, I get asked questions. Does the inspector need to go inside the property? Yes, because that's part of the safety inspection. We are checking the safety system of that structure, that building, that house, that resident. That's what we're doing. So when we get inside, we need to check outside, the inside, to make sure that everything's connected, make sure everything's good, make sure that your service actually can be connected. In certain areas, there are problems with meter out inspections. So I'm going to give you a couple of things that you need to know when you're scheduling a meter out inspection. It's your responsibility to have this information and provide this information when filling out the meter out form. You need your premise number. I mentioned that earlier. It's 9 digits. You need a contact number, an email address, some way that we can contact that person and let them know and set it up. Well, so the contact information is for the inspector. So you provide this on your meter out request sheet. So when we get the information, we're going to call you and tell you, set it up for you, email address. If anything happens, this is our way of getting the information to you fast and getting it to you as quick as we can. And we need lockbox information. If you have a lockbox on that property, we need lockbox information. Issues also include the condition of the property. Now, that's just the information for the permit. You need that information, correct address, all of that. But once we get out to the meter out, these are some of the issues that I frequently have with the meter out inspections, and it happens often. The house must be lockable before energizing the electrical service. because the power's been off for a while. So now you got to make sure that your doors are still intact, your windows are still intact. You just need to make sure that your property is in condition, okay condition, so that no one can get in unnecessarily if the power can be turned on. You need, so for the houses that some do not have any grounding electrode, and there's often missing devices, as I mentioned, and there are occasions where in certain areas that there's electrical work done or installed that's newer, and you remember what I said, that you can't install electrical work without a permit. So we come into a meter out house and we see a new panel or we see new wiring, we're going to question that because it has to be done by a licensed electrical contractor, and we just want to make sure whomever is going to be there in that business or that house, we want to make sure that the wiring is safe. So if you do it without a permit, that often happens, you will receive a violation. So that brings me to the violation part. Now, that violation information also can be found in that 1102 ordinance that I spoke of earlier, and I'm just going to run through that information for you. So when we do run across things like that and you receive a violation, there's other issues that you can get a violation for as well, but mainly in my area is basically the meter outs. So the violation means that it is unlawful and deemed a violation of the code for any person or organization to extend, alter, repair, maintain electrical systems in any building or structure except which conforms to a licensed electrical contractor. Or if you were a homeowner, you would have to have a permit for that, and it would be on file. You are in violation for altering repairs. You now have to you now have to bring it up to code, so you cannot continue any work there. It has to be a stop work order, and you're going to get a written violation, and you're going to be notified by in writing, by mail, or any way we can contact you to let you know that you're in violation and you can't do any further work on that property until this is completed. Also, your power will not be restored until all of this information, this violation, is abated. Now, that brings me to something that often happens as well. So now, if a meter out is a separate permit, if you're in violation, you must hire a licensed electrical contractor with a permit and an inspection. They have to have that permit and inspection. The licensed electrical contractor, you got to remember that you need to put the premise number on that if you're taking over that meter out job, because that's the original why we were there originally, to do a meter out inspection. Now it turns into a violation. Now you're taking over, so you would need to get that premise information. Often that's forgotten when we do a violation and it turns over to the contractor. That's often forgotten. So sometimes, when I said that abatement, a lot of people, they do not want to remove the work that was done illegally without a permit. That's what that means when you hear someone say illegal work. That work was done without an electrical permit. So I'm asked this question a lot. Can I just pay the fine? Like I mentioned, you're going to get a written violation, and look well, you can't look in 1102, but the authority having jurisdiction, they will be discreet and with the ruling. So the violation process is abatement and violation. That's the process. I receive frequent questions, the flood jobs and fire damage jobs, because often electrical equipment is damaged by fire or flood or water. That's significant if it risks re-energizing without the proper inspection. We want you to, if you have a fire, we would like for you to make sure that before you call in for an electrical, put in for an electrical permit, that you have a report. And I'm going to get to that. I just want to give you some information about the contaminated and electrical equipment components must be replaced. There is a policy for fire and flood jobs, and you can check with your local authority having jurisdiction to see if this applies to you and if they can give you those rules and regulations. With the fire jobs, the biggest question with these jobs, as I mentioned, as I would like to mention, I'm sorry, because I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. When we do these type of jobs, when I come there, the electrician and the homeowner, they're trying to save as much as they can, like the wiring as they can. But by it being a fire job, and if it you had the fire department there and water and those type of things getting on the equipment, that has to be replaced. There's no way around it, because I'm often asked that, can we say this or can we say that? You can't, because it's contaminated and the equipment could be damaged and the components, they have to be replaced, as I mentioned. Now, we can't turn on the service. Nothing can be turned on. That's what the electrician often asks. Can we take everything out of the electrical box and we just energize the service? Unfortunately, you can't do that as well. So on these type of jobs, fire jobs or flood jobs, you're going to need to get a temp pole. That's just something that has to happen. I'm sorry about that, but it's required. I was on a fire job last week, and that's why I'm bringing this up, because it was unfortunate. So I'm going to move on with some more questions that I have. So the number one question that I am asked by the local electrical contractors on jobs, commercial jobs. Now, these are commercial jobs that I'm going to talk about right now. If a product has a nationally recognized label on it, if it has a label, how can this product fail an electrical inspection? So if I come out on a job and your product has a listing, they want to know, how does it fail electrical inspection? The NEC requires that all electrical equipment be approved, listed, and labeled by a NRTL before it can operate in the workspace. The National Electrical Code 2023, Article 110.2 and 110.3. Article 100 of the National Electrical Code, the fire protection, defines listed and labeled components or products must be approved by the authority having jurisdiction and labeled to indicate compliance. Often, the electrical equipment will arrive on the job site, is listed, and it does have the label on it, indicating that the electrical product has been tested and that the electrical product meets the manufacturer's standards of compliance from the manufacturer. Now, why does it fail inspection? The question they want to know. I just gave you all of that to just give you some background on how we come to this determination, how I come to this determination, and with the code. So the product, it arrives on the job site. The product, the installation must meet the minimum requirements of the code. Article 100, where it says approve, the AHJ they are allowed to examine certain products or manufacturers. One of the biggest issues that local contractors are having are 3-inch or less can lights. So the can lights, they have a housing, and it just depends on the manufacturer, and it depends on how the can light is constructed or built. And the can light, you can't, when it comes out, they install them because they ordered them. You can't get to the components. So that's why it fails. Because if I come on your job site and I'm checking your can lights and I ask you to demonstrate if you're able to get to the components, and if you yourself can't do it, this has happened on several jobs where they cannot get to the components. And remember, you have to do it with one hand because it's going to be drywall. It's a drywall ceiling, these can lights. So if you can't get to the components, it doesn't meet the requirements of the code. That's a big problem that we're having. And I just want to put that out there for anyone that can get this to anyone that can help with this issue, because it's a big deal. There's a lot of time and money wasted with them installing the lights. Then they have to turn around and figure out how to, what light they need. And I don't know where the responsibility, well, depending on the can light. Now, some of the can lights, the structure, you cannot get to that if it's in a drywall ceiling. Now, some of the design issue fall on whoever ordered the lights, not knowing what type of ceiling they were going to go in. That's helpful to know what type of ceiling you're going to put the lights in. That would be really helpful. And between that type of situation, I just want everybody to be vigilant and to do the research on these can lights, because that is a really big issue. And as I mentioned, the article where you can find what I'm saying to you, Article 300.29, boxes and conduit bodies and handheld enclosures shall be installed so that the wiring and the devices contained in the wiring and the box can be rendered accessible. So it has to be rendered accessible. Article 410.24b, access to boxes, light fixtures, LED luminaires, because those little small can lights, LED luminaires, surface mounted, they must be suitable. They must be provided with access. That's the bottom line. For Article 410.24, the junction box with the wiring for the light must be accessible. The driver, that's a big one for these small can lights. Depending on how the housing is built, the drivers are not accessible. Detached junction boxes must be supported to structure. That has a lot to do with knowing what type of light, can light you need. The junction boxes, because there are certain types from the different manufacturers where the junction box are detached. from the can light. You have to put it on the frame, and it's a ceiling thing. So just know what type of ceiling you're getting these can lights for, because that issue needs immediate someone to immediately address it. So I mentioned that. Just remember, take into consideration when you're ordering these can lights, make sure you know if you need it for a drywall ceiling or suspended ceiling. And the reason why I keep bringing that part up is because most owners do not like access panels. And we go around with that, because if you have these can lights and you do not want to go and order more, or whatever the situation may be, you have to put access panels in. And they do not like those access panels. They reject them all the time. So earlier I told you that I was going to tell you about some frequent furniture, electrical equipment that arrives on the job sites. And we have the listing issues that I'm speaking of, where I wanted to have your contractor order your material. Have your contractor order your electrical equipment, your electrical furniture, electrical mirrors. Have them order all of your equipment. Here are some things that I have often when I do these type of areas. Condensing units in hotels and dormitories. So I have issues with the condensing units because of the overcurrent protection. They have on the overcurrent protection on the box, they'll have on there maximum allowable amperage, 15 amps, and not most of the time, all of the time, it's on a 20 amp. So that's the issue that I have often. HVAC equipment, flexible cord above the ceiling for HVAC equipment. Flexible cord is not allowed above the ceiling. That equipment comes out often with a flexible cord with a receptacle plug. The receptacle plug can only be used for servicing. If you have a receptacle up there, it can't be permanently a pump. I think it's for a pump. It can't be permanently plugged in above a suspended ceiling. So that needs to be addressed. Of course, the adjustable tables, the office furniture, we constantly have problems with those. The hotel room furniture, the dormitory furniture, all of this new style furniture that we are getting an influx of. Unlisted transition fittings and components that come with that adjustable furniture. Some of the transition fittings are not allowed by the National Electrical Code. It's the type of transition fitting that we use in the trade, the go-tos. Those are on some of the office adjustable furniture, and those are not allowed. Jacuzzi bath tubs. There are several issues with those. I talked about those. I don't really want to get into it because I still have a lot to go through. This one is recent. Kitchen cabinets custom design. And they were shipped from out of the country. And they had different style receptacle outlet plugs. I don't know what that voltage was. I don't know. It was some, but that right there is, it wasn't built in the United States standard. So that was an issue. And another issue that we have in homes are lit closet door hangers. They have closet spaces now that they're having motorized shelves and You have grounding metal bars in there and lights. So when you have that type of equipment come, if you have it installed or if the electrician, they need to order that type of material so that they know what they're ordering, and you won't have a problem with the listings, because that's the point of hiring an electrician, to let them take responsibility, to take the responsibility off of you, because they know exactly what they're looking for. These issues are often. So as I explained, to avoid these issues, please allow your electrical contractor to select all your electrical equipment. I get asked this sometimes, and I want to answer this question. Why are those nationally recognized test and laboratory standards important for electrical inspections and electrical contractors? The nationally recognized test and laboratory standards are important for electrical inspections and electrical contractors because they help ensure the safety of the workers and the compliance of electrical products with OSHA requirements. So that's very important. They have standards. They go by these standards, and we need that just to have it well oiled. So OSHA, they have requirements. OSHA requires that the NRTL's approval for many electrical equipment used in the workspace. So OSHA requires that. They want that. In the product safety, you can look for the mark and the safety standard. I just want to give you some background on that is required by OSHA for the workspace. So I wanted to go over something that I have often encounter when I go on inspections, because when an electrician call in an inspection, I don't necessarily know what they want until I get there. Recently, I've been called on a few inspections where the electrician, I'm going to just give you the scenario because this often happens, and I just want, if you have this on your job, I just want you to know correct process that you need to go through to get it taken care of. So I'm going to give you the scenario. I go on the job, the electrician, they're doing a remodel of a commercial building, and it's a few floors, maybe 3 floors. He needs 600 amps of power. This building is maybe 25 years old, so they have older switch gear. So the switch gear, he needs 600 amps. It only has one more bucket or one more space for a 400 amp switch. So he can't get his 600 amps because the switch gear only allows 400. So I'm there because he wants to know what he needs to do to get 600 amps into that switch gear, which he did have a plan. It was a good plan. He had a plan. I'm sorry. And that plan included tapping off of the bus. I believe I mentioned this in one of my earlier podcasts. Now, that's as far as the electrical inspector. Like, I am the electrical inspector. That switchgear is over 25 years old. And if you need that type of power, and now you have to go in and modify that switchgear, you need engineering drawings. You need the manufacturer involved to tell you about their switchgear. That's why it's important to contact the manufacturer. And they will configure that system. Because what he had, so sorry, wasn't bad, but we need engineering drawings for things like that. Sorry. I'm going to go on. So with that switchgear being that old, we really don't know the condition, but the manufacturer, they would have all the drawings. They would be able to really lead you in the right direction on that, and it would be labeled by the manufacturer. It's their product. So I'm going to go on to another question that I often, this isn't a question, this is maybe a dilemma. Often, a homeowner, this often happens to homeowners, they will have an electrical contractor, and if something maybe go wrong, if something happens and they don't want that electrical contractor on the job anymore, they want to hire a new electrical contractor. So what's the process for that? First, you need the electrical contractor, if you know that you're not going to no longer be on that job, you need to cancel that permit. The homeowner, they often will contact us to try to cancel your permit, but you're the electrical license holder. Only you can cancel that permit. And once you get that permit canceled, now what does that look like? Because I get that question scenario a lot. So once he cancels his permit, and if work has been done there, like if he has begun putting in and installing work, now if he had an inspection and he wants to close out his permit, his or her permit, if the permit needs to be closed out, we have to come and do a inspection to see where that contractor left off. Like, where is the cutting? Where does his responsibility end, and where does the new contractor responsibility begin? So that's what we need to do with the original contractor. Now you need to go and get someone to take responsibility for the work that's already installed. You can't do that until the other permit is closed. So I get that a lot. Sometimes I get inspections called in by the general contractor or the homeowners. I want to tell you that no one can call in anyone's permit. Only the license holder and the people that he or she puts in charge can call in for a permit. I get that a few times where they'll call in for the permit because they have a dispute. But remember, only the license holder can call in for an inspection. Last but not least, I want to tell the electrical contractors something that is often mentioned to me when I am at the homeowner's home. Leaving behind your abandoned equipment, your trash and tie wraps and junction boxes and that kind of stuff, the homeowner often will will take me over and point it out, ask me if I can do anything about it. Just remember to clean up after yourself with the good housekeeping. Remember that. Just pick up after yourself, because they do notice that type of thing, and they may, by word of mouth, not give you a great recommendation. And I often do see it for myself. So I just want to give you that piece of information. Just make sure you clean up after yourself. And as I mentioned in the opening of this episode, please choose a local, reliable contractor that you trust. Someone who is already established in the community. Tune in next week. I will give you a list of requirements for the flood and fire damaged jobs. I have a lot of those, and I want to give you those requirements. My goal is to be proactive in preventing future non-compliance issues before the inspection happens. If you have any questions or comments, please contact me on any of my social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, under the moniker Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector. If you would like to add to anything to this discussion, please provide feedback or add your information. Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector at gmail.com with any questions or electrical concerns. Thank you for tuning in, and good night.